Just when I thought that this season couldn't get any better, Studio Bones decided to drop one of the best anime episodes of the year for all eyes to see. The two best characters in the show, Endeavor and Bakugo, went off against the biggest villains of the series, and it was hype as f***. To all of the people who still think MHA fell off, what are you guys gonna say now? You know what, never mind. People are still gonna find ways to hate on this episode. My Hero Academia is one of those anime where you have to separate the series from the fan base to enjoy it. It is what it is. The news of Todoroki defeating Darby sent waves across the battlefields, marking a significant victory after overcoming one of the biggest threats outside of All For One and Shigaraki. This success served as a much needed morale boost for the heroes. Other heroes and students also stepped into the spotlight, like Mountain Lady and Mina, who were protecting the base housing Gigantomachia from the villains. The heroes didn't even bother to move Gigantomachia, they were like f*** it and built a prison around him. The part where Mina overheard the villains talking about Midnight was a nice addition, and Red Riot coming to her rescue was a nice touch. You know Horikoshi had to pair these two together. Spinner is now looking like a bigger Michael Bay Ninja Turtle, courtesy of All For One giving him a quirk boost. He's become the leader of the Heteromorphs and he's now fighting for the cause. However, Spinner remains unaware that he's merely a pawn in All For One's grand scheme. Knowing he couldn't control Darby, All For One strategically positioned Spinner as another disruptive element against the heroes. But the main event of these two episodes was Endeavor and Hawks versus All For One. And listen, for a character named All For One who has the ability to steal and use other people's quirks, his most potent quirk, however, is his ability to talk trash. This power allows him to openly insult and intimidate opponents, undermining their confidence, abilities, and their will to fight, causing emotional turmoil and distraction. In this case, All For One targeted Endeavor, exploiting his guilt over his son's lives, and as much as I despise All For One, I have to admit, he's right. He revealed to Endeavor how he discovered Toya's body in the forest and saved him from death, and this revelation was enough to shatter Endeavor's composure, which temporarily incapacitated him. Bro, imagine if All For One was in an Xbox 360 party chat back then, he would be utterly insufferable. All For One has been monitoring Endeavor and his family for a long time, keenly aware of his failures. All For One did not corrupt Toya upon finding him. The damage had already been done. This explains Endeavor's intense reaction. Consumed by guilt, he couldn't simply ignore these accusations. From Endeavor's perspective, All For One was the catalyst for Toya becoming Darby. Without All For One's intervention, Toya would have died. And if Enji found Toya instead of All For One, he might have tragically lost his son, or he would have been left in a coma. These hypothetical scenarios would have forced Endeavor to confront his past actions and the way he treated his family, realizing that his choices led directly to their suffering. This realization may have allowed him to change his ways much sooner with less severe consequences. Toya wouldn't have become Darby, Shoto wouldn't have gotten burned by his mother, and he could have saved his own family. This reveal reaffirms to him that everything that has transpired is entirely his fault. To truly understand Enji Todoroki's character, this week's episode delved into his heartbreaking backstory. When he was young, his father attempted to save a girl, but tragically, they both lost their lives in the process. This event left a permanent mark on Enji, shaping his perception of strength. His backstory not only humanizes him, but also adds profound layers to the Todoroki family storyline. In his eyes, his father's demise was due to weakness, which instilled in him a deep fear of failure and an overwhelming sense of inferiority. Endeavor is my favorite character, and he's the best written in the series, hands down. While he shares similarities with Bakugo, he's much more complex. For years, he's grappled with a relentless inner voice telling him that he's not good enough, that he remains weak. All Might's very existence stoked Endeavor's pursuit of perfection, exacerbating his feelings of inadequacy. Like, knowing he could never reach All Might's level, he made the devastating choice to sacrifice his family in an attempt to create a successor capable of surpassing the symbol of peace. When All Might's true identity was revealed, that was the turning point of his character. He realized in that moment that everything he had done up to that point was for nothing, because the man heralded as the pinnacle of hero society looks like this, and he gained his power from someone else. The brilliant choice that Horikoshi made with Endeavor's development was to give him a character arc solely based on atonement. He seeks no forgiveness from others. Instead, Endeavor strives to redeem himself by becoming a better human being, whether under the scrutiny of others or in solitude. This is what makes him truly a remarkable character. With Endeavor down and Hawks facing All For One alone, he's clearly outmatched. Fortunately, he's not by himself, as Jiro and Tokiyami arrive to save the day.
That's funny.
The heroes are really scraping the bottom of the barrel if they're relying on Beats by Dre and Raven to take on All For One. As expected, the Demon Lord inflicts serious injuries on the duo, but All For One wasn't familiar with their game, and Jiro and Tokiyami managed to momentarily stun All For One, causing his quirks to rebel. This was just enough for the big man to re-enter the fight, and he was locked in. Witness Endeavor going all out against All For One was absolutely spectacular. He tore his arm off without hesitation, and he chose violence. The people at Studio Bones must really love Endeavor because they delivered with this episode. Bones cooked, Endeavor cooked, Bakugo cooked, everything was well cooked. This fight had many callbacks to his battle with the Nomu back in season 4, but the standout moment for me was when he replaced his arm with fire, which looked so cool, and him using heat vision on All For One. That shit was fucking ridiculous, but I loved it. Like, honestly, this season has nailed the fight so far. Like, between the last episode, Star and Stripe, and this fight, Bones has not disappointed. I found myself rewinding this episode multiple times. And speaking of rewind, the heroes just can't catch a break. Despite being turned into a burnt potato, All For One has somehow obtained Eri's quirk, allowing him to rewind himself to his prime. And hints provided in the episode suggest he accessed Eri's quirk through the samples of the quirk destroying bullets and extracting her DNA in the process. And if this weren't enough, Shigaraki is wreaking havoc, just escalating this war even further. The heroes at the UA High School are still struggling to deal with Shigaraki, but Bakugo decides to take charge by using the Panzer artillery unit and looking absolutely badass doing it. This episode masterfully contrasts the two standout characters while drawing striking similarities between them. Bakugo, born with innate talent and showered with praise for his powerful quirk, developed a superiority complex that led to his toxic behavior, especially towards Deku. Crushed by the weight of expectations, his pride took a beating when he encountered students at UA stronger than himself, slowly chipping away at his ego and triggering an inferiority complex similar to Endeavor's. Like, throughout the series, we see Bakugo gradually shedding his main character syndrome. He was atoning for his behavior long before he apologized to Deku, by looking out for him, training with him, and even putting his life on the line. His growth and redemption arc has been nothing short of amazing. Bakugo's howitzer impact lands a powerful blow in Shigaraki, but it only left him with a sunburn. And props to Bakugo because that was impressive. He managed to clear out most of the fingers, but it just wasn't enough. Bro gets his arm crushed like a ketchup packet, and at this rate, the heroes might as well throw in the towel. They are no match for Shiggy, and with Deku on his way, they desperately need to buy some more time. This, my friends, was a stellar episode. The way they integrated Endeavor and Bakugo fighting All For One and Shiggy was executed brilliantly. The pacing was spot on, and the tone maintained a perfect balance of epicness and intensity. When I saw the title for next week's episode, I couldn't believe it. We're really about to go there this soon. I'm not going to say anything about the next episode. I just want to tell all of you guys who are anime only watchers to get ready. The next episode will break the internet. We also got a new opening and ending for the second half of the season, and I must say, Studio Bones did not give a fuck about spoilers. They showed way too much in that opening, and I'm at a loss for words. I'm even questioning how much of the final arc they'll adapt at this point. Like, there were many cool shots, and visually speaking, this ranks as one of the best openings in My Hero Academia. Both the opening and the ending were very Naruto-like, especially with that ending. That was almost a copy and paste from one of the Naruto endings. Like, Studio Bones has consistently delivered a 10 out of 10 for me so far, but next week's episode is where the season will truly ramp up. And we've seen some great animation this far, but they must have saved most of their budget for the remainder of the season, because Deku and Shigaraki is so close, and if Bones is able to nail this fight, we could be witnessing one of, if not the best fight of the year. Thank you to everyone who watched the video. Like, comment and subscribe for more content like this. Check out my MHA playlist, and until next week, stay blessed.